Hello, my name is Chris Zegalo, and I've come here today to share a story with you from my book called Running with Rainbows, The Afterlife, and Other Stories. This is about the ending of a young fellow's life and the afterlife of what happened afterward. He grew up in my house. He was special friends with my daughter, and from the second grade on up, they played soccer together and baseball. And when they got married to their partners, they even had children at the same time, and little girls who became especially close and through their life as well. So there's been a really strong connection with Joe and my family forever, as far as I can see. And Joe was an electrician by trade, and he started having headaches and he was diagnosed with brain cancer. And I prayed to my dad when I first heard about it because my dad was really close to all my daughter's friends because he loved baseball and he was everybody's grandpa. In fact, Joe became a pallbearer for my dad. So he was very connected to him. So I prayed to my dad, asked him to come and talk to me. Could he tell me anything about what to say with Joe? And he said to tell Joe, let's play ball. The game's not over. And I gave Joe that message, and he was real excited about it and felt like he had some hope. But then we talked about whatever happened, that it would remain positive, that he wouldn't let anybody feel sorry for him or in any regard like that, just that give him hope and support and to be there for whatever was going to occur from then on out. One of his close friends even organized a website for him and made special shirts, and he had support from friends all over the world that had gone on from his days of growing up in this town. So he had support everywhere, which is so important that that energy is out, to know that there's love and compassion, and that really helps a person get through a tough time like the one he was going through. As time went on, he was not improving. I even flew into him a couple of times when he was going through his surgeries, and he was okay with everything. Whatever happened, he had great faith that if it was his time, then that was his time. So he had special time that he made with his family, and his family made with him and his friends. And there was one time where I even had it was like a vision dream, a scene like I get to do once in a while. And a mother of one of his close friends that had passed away a few years ago was floating around in his home, and seeing that her family hadn't been to visit him. And the next day, the family came and even did some repairs for him. And then I also saw a young fellow that I had thought was a friend from his baseball days in college, maybe not a close friend, but one that had passed on. And he was in the home as well, supporting. We don't always realize that sometimes before it's our time, that even the afterlife can see things, and so they come and give us support as well as the family that's near this person. And so I found out from his wife when I told her that this young man had been visiting their home. She said that he did have a friend that was on the team that had passed, and that he was not close to him, but he did know him. And so the description I had of what he looked like was this young man. So there are many that are coming to support, just like what happened with the little girl when they came to get me in the story that I had talked about a while back. So Joe didn't get any better, but there were many parties for him, and they raised money for his family and all the things they had to go through while they were transporting him and airlifting him for his surgeries, and just going through this troubling time. he was getting support from all over the world. And then it was finally time that they realized that his time was near, and they had the last rites for him, and they called me over and asked if I would come and help him go to cross the veil. And when I got to the house, I told him that there was a baseball field waiting for him, and he pointed to it and said, "Yep, it's right there." He pointed right up above himself. And I said, "Well, Grandpa has a special message for you still." And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "He said, let's play ball. The game's not over. We're just changing playing fields." So when we started to go through the process of letting go, I saw the veil and the golden light like I've often been able to see. And my dad was on the other side helping. And so Joe knew that he was going to be greeted already by someone he knew, and there would be other relatives there too, but he especially knew Grandpa was going to be there and showing him what field to go on next. And also he showed me a little group of children, little girls and boys, who were waiting for him to have some coaching because they had not been able to learn about baseball. They had left this world before that, and so they were excited that they were going to finally get to have a little team, even though it was somewhere else. So after a few words between Joe and his wife and children, son and daughter, and he was preparing to leave this world and go to the other side. And the next day, I had another vision dream, and it was taken to a room a room above a field, a baseball field, where there was a press box, and it was an old one, like from the 40s maybe, and didn't have any windows in front of the press box, and it just looked like an older picture. And I asked where Joe was, and they said he was in center field with Joe DiMaggio and Babe Ruth, and they were teaching him the real game of baseball. And then they showed me a room that would be named after him, and it was a special room behind the press box where coaches met and where they stored some of their equipment, and it was going to be named after him. I told his wife about it the next day, and she said, "That's amazing." She said that those two baseball players were his favorite, and they were coming up with all kinds of slogans and sayings that they had come up with to talk about at his memorial. So then when the memorial started, they had popcorn and songs of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and it was held in the baseball field where Joe played baseball in college and high school, and where he also had been able to umpire for our professional team at one time. And I saw Joe walking with his brother. At first I thought it was kind of interesting how he and his brother looked so much alike. And then I realized that it was Joe walking with him, and that's who I saw. And then Joe went to first base and stood by first base and in an umpire uniform that he was so proud to wear, and then became part of the ceremony. And just before then, however, when I was getting ready to go to the memorial, he came to me and said, "Are you going to the party?" And I said, "Well, of course, I'm just getting ready to go, and I'll be there soon." And when I told his wife that, she said that's what he would have called it. It was a party. And so the memorial was lovely, and his friends talked about him and joked, and Joe laughed and had expression back and forth as if they were in the real same world together. Then the party did go on at the community college afterward, and he followed me around and kept saying, could you please tell these people that I'm here and I'm going to be at their parties tonight? And first I thought, I don't want people to have funny ideas about me. And then I thought, it's not about me. It's about him. So I told different people that he was going to be at their party, and they just commented, well, of course he is. We expect him to be there. So it was an amazing event. And the thing that is so beautiful about it is that we don't always know that these things are going on behind the scene when someone has passed, and we're in the grief, and we don't always get to hear about it. But it's always nice to know that they weren't alone, and that they were with those that cared for them and loved them and wanted to share compassion and love. So I hope this gives you some ideas today on why it's so important to continue on in our relationships with others and our friends, that we always work on forgiving and not having judgment, because we never know when it's our time. But there were like between 600 and 800 people at his memorial. They came from all over the world, his high school friends that he had and his college friends. And that support stayed on with the family. And it stayed on with Joe because he saw them all and he knew they were all there. So I'm just saying today to realize how important it is for us to be totally alive in this world before we pass on to the other, but knowing that we will never be alone, that we always have help and always have support. We do not die, and life just goes on in a different form. Now I know that Joe's over there, or wherever you want to call it. He's with the little children and teaching them the great game of real baseball. So I'll talk to you again next time. Now I'm going to do what I do at the end of my videos. I'm putting on my hat, and I'm going down to our local plaza and opening my heart, sending love and light to everyone, everywhere. I hope that you'll do that too, because we all need to keep this compassion going and this love going and sharing the light wherever we can. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.